Hey everyone, we're continuing. We're just reading through the Baker incident report and got to an interesting part where Zoe is working as local report. She's been diving into the into the Dolby incident, the Baker incident for last game, RE7. She's investigating the BSA, the way they're covering up the whole incident, some gas leak, and she's basically trying to look for Ethan and Mia Winters, and apparently she's just got a letter from gonna taking a while, but she's finally, while New Orleans, got a letter from Mia Winters herself. Let's continue. Hey, how you doing? It's been a while, hasn't it? BSA won't let us send any emails or letters, but I gave this directly to an employee to give to you, so it should be safe. Our location is still hidden. I've always wanted to tell you how thankful I am. Ethan and I would have died in that house if it hadn't been for you. It must have been hard to fight all alone for so long. So, thank you. I can't tell you where we are, but we're happy and we're safe and happy. I feel like we're finally settled down into our new life. The BSA gave us the house the BSA gave us is huge. I don't know what to do with it all. Oh, that reminds me. The reason I wanted to write you. Ethan and I had a baby! I included a picture of her in this letter. I warn you, she's so cute. uh, we named her Rosemary. Isn't it such a wonderful name? I hope you can come and see her someday. Ethan wants to see you too. I've learned all kinds of local dishes. I'm sure you'll like them. Oh, so she actually legitimately did learn the local dishes. It's just that she actually wanted to try and thrive a little bit there. So maybe. Oh, you know what it is? I bet that's how Miranda's found out actually about there's new people there. Probably through Mia. Anyway, that's interesting. Maybe, maybe not. No need to reply. I'm sure we'll meet again someday. Take care of yourself, okay? Sincerely, Mia Winters. A letter from Mia and Ethan out of nowhere? And they have a daughter. I'd almost given up on finding them. I couldn't hold back the tears. I'm glad the three of them are happy in their new life. Just as I closed the mailbox, I spotted another envelope. It was embossed with the BSA logo. Sender unknown. It contained the following. Whoa, hold on. Why is she opening Chris's mail? I've got a big problem with that. BSA HQ. Warning to Chris, letter Chris Redfield. Chris, we are growing concerned with your recent activity. According to our recent reports, you're taking personal control over our elite unit, the Hound Wolf Squad, without permission. And you've accessed a number of top secret documents, also without permission. What the hell are you doing? Huh. You know what? This just confirms something for me. If nothing else, right? If there's any speculation to the fact that Chris was no longer, as it were, part of the. I mean, he all it proves is he always belonged to the BSA. He was contracted out to Blue Umbrella. That's what this is essentially just proof. I'm just saying, for the what it's worth, that's just proving that. You know, I mean, it was basically said that it was contract out in a different wording, but yeah, it's basically saying he's still part of it. You know, just his contract with them was finished or whatever, and he's just doing his own thing. Okay, well, in the extreme circumstance, apparently. What are you and your squad doing in Eastern Europe? Who the fuck is this Miranda that keeps popping up in your correspondences? What is with the investigation into Winter's family? Huh. Wait. So Chris isn't... Oh my god. The BSA is in on this. Holy shit. This is bloody FBC all over again, but on a much bigger scale. That's the underlying tone I'm getting. And he, how does Chris need permission to get access on the Winters family? This guy's one of the founding members. He does not need any bloody permission. He's like Jill, bloody oh god, my brain's just gone to sleep on that one. Barry, well, technically Barry wasn't part, but yeah, like with Jill, Claire, all these other people, he does not need any permission. He might as well have the ear of the goddamn director of the BSA. My god, he doesn't need permission from anyone to do anything in the BSA. Oh, don't bullshit us. You've been very critical of the BSA since the Baker incident. Well, to be fair, he's not that wrong. You kind of screw things up. And because you've gone all political, you decided to hide stuff, which is just bloody typical. And Chris is just trying to make you look like an ass, which you are, but you're going to blame him and everyone else under the sun. Great, that's politics for you, isn't it? You might be one of the founding original 11. Oh, I see. Okay, it is 11. But I cannot let you continue to run around unchecked. Yeah, well, we'll see about that. He makes one phone call to Rebecca, Leon, Claire, Jill, and Barry, and your history, BSA. You are goddamn history. Seriously. I don't care if he was any sort of rogue. He makes a contact to these people who know him. They will side with him 100%. The BSA feels so threatened right now. They bloody well should be. So I'll repeat myself. What the hell are you doing? And why the hell is she opening his mail? And wait, is Chris living with Zoe? But hang on a minute. If we're assuming this is going after the report, so Chris is either in America or he's in Eastern Europe or somewhere in between. Unless Chris is housing Zoe for her own protection, but Zoe's in New Orleans. Why would Chris be in New Orleans? Okay, that's something why is she opening his mail? She's got no bloody right to do it. Unless they got married or something. That's weird. I can't figure my head around that one. There was one thing scribbled on the back of this. It's not over. Either that's supposed to be saying to Chris, the incident with Miranda and the mold is not over, or it's not over as in like a threat is, this is not over. I'm going to assume it's not the latter. It's a warning, like, you know, it's not over. There's something bigger going on. This is everything I have on the Baker incident. It's purely for my own reference. I don't intend to send it out to the general public. I'll continue my investigation. Many have tried to get in my way, slow me down. But I'm doing this for my family. I won't give up. I know that someday I'll be able to give Ethan and Mia my thanks directly. At least, I pray I can. Hey, Zoe. Well, at least you survived this long. That's something, I suppose. My name is Zoe Baker, a survivor of this tragedy. Wow. Huh. Interesting. I'm still having to figure out. So, I pieces to put together. So, Why is Mia opening Chris's mail? Unless they're married or he's given her permission, but I mean, did she just make that quick of friends? Unless, of course, Rebecca reached out to Zoe and said, look, if you need something, contact me. And she's betting Rebecca's the one twisting Chris's arm, which is entirely possible, let's face it. That's something else going on. Unless Jill's got involved, well, Chris will just obey Jill no matter what, so that's who the hell knows. So yeah, that jacket couldn't be that was in the post-credit scene. It must be a lookalike. There's no way in hell that could be Ethan's. It wouldn't make sense for the game logic and even game lore. Ethan's dead. He even says the father's story is done, so Ethan's dead. I doubt that agent is Leon, even though timeline would technically make sense, but he wouldn't pull a wise crack joke like that. It's not like Leon. Unless he's doing RE4 style, but that's something different because that's just for the moment he's bunched around enemies. Like, fine. He's not stupid enough to make Christ wise joke, you know. Especially did you just see her go to the father's grave? Like, he's not that stupid. But there's too many people in play still. Too many characters. Either Capcom needs to make another anime movie, which I think they're probably going to need to anyway, to explain a bunch of this stuff, because there's a lot of characters still in play. For those of you who aren't aware, this game was originally supposed to be Revelations 3. I can't remember if it was like a third of the way or even half. I think it was like a third of the way through or something, or maybe almost halfway through. It was scrapped and essentially modified to create RE8. I'm actually glad they modified it because I think for Revelations, there's so much more that Revelations literally has to cover. That, I mean, they're trying to go in a new direction with new characters, but Capcom have got to conclude some stories. They've got to conclude some characters. I mean, like I said, you know, for that 10-year gap, so let's, we need to find out why Chris was not getting access. Chris is one of the founding members. He doesn't need permission to get access to information. I don't care. Like, the guy can walk anywhere in the BSA and get what he wants. He's just one of those people and he doesn't have to ask permission. Seriously, he's the type of person that is that blunt and will smack his fist down to her and say, "Give me the bloody file, or where do I smash?" Like, he's that blunt. I mean, okay, may not want to smash things, but he's very much the blunt type, and people listen to him. Like, he makes a point, you know? Especially if someone like Rebecca or Leon's with him. I mean, whoever it is that's facing him hasn't got a hope in hell of saying no to him. Let's just face it. So, but yeah, it's just because I think aside, even if they did an anime movie to help, Revelations 3 needs to come before RE9. Why? Okay, let's say there's an 18-year gap, okay? The amount of stories they need, like, we need to explain the connections. We need to explain... I'm assuming there's a cover-up going on at the BSA, and I don't think it's necessarily all political. I think there's some sort of bioweapon background. I think it was the FBC or FSB or whatever they were called, but this is like going back to Revelations where there was a cover up going on, like a really bad bioterrorism cover up. There was an inside job essentially going on. I think something similar is going on, and Chris has found something out that we haven't been told yet. Which will need to come up. That's probably going to come up in RE9, I'm assuming. Fine, I can accept that. But in the meantime, you've got at least 10 years where a number of stories have to either have some conclusion to them, official conclusion, or they need to be linked. And there's plenty of opportunity to link characters. You've got possibilities of Shiva, you've got Claire, Moira. Alex Wesker is a character that's going to come of age pretty soon and going to take over her mind, the kid's mind, and come into her own. She's going to be a big player. She's still a Wesker. Um, from Revelations 2, there are factors of she was operating what's called Island 46, which means there is at least there was 45, if not possibly more other island. I'm not sure whether this referring to island is in Facility 45, but let's just say for second, let's call it Facility 45, Facility 46. But 45, I think, pretty sure it's Island 46. Let's say it's facilities. There's 45, possible even more other facilities that we have yet to cover. Perfect chance for Revelations 3 to cover a bunch of different things. The way they've done the Revelations is to cover 2 characters at a time from different perspectives. I think that's fine. You can cover a lot of other stuff in documents, which is what Revelations have done quite a lot, and even RE has done quite a lot as well in general, which I think is kind of necessary. We're still yet to find out Miranda's past. I actually think that needs to be found out, because where the hell did she come from? How is she immortal? Why haven't we learnt about this yet? You know, how does she have such a damn good ability for genetics and advanced medical ability, advanced medical understanding? Like, we're talking about going through time. 300 years ago, the concept of that was either taboo in medicine or just didn't exist at all. Was fully taboo in medicine to do that sort of thing, or even attempt to even theorize it, never mind openly theorize or speak about it. So, to an extent. And Miranda's story is, I know it's one of those things you could say it's swept under the cover. No. We need to find out what's going on. She's a character that needs to be understood. We need to find out more about. I at least want to know. I want to know how she understands so much, how she's got such good ability. To teach Spencer that kind of ability as a medical student, she has to have incredibly good knowledge. We're going over back 150, 200 years ago? Considering she's supposed to be immortal? Where the hell's that from? Why has that never been found out? She's not with the connections, so what the hell's her story? We need to find out. Revelations would be a perfect opportunity for her past, wherever that is set. You've got Rebecca and Leon could easily be connected in the story because they obviously Chris did his own thing. They've gone their own ways. She can easily contact him. Jill is a player has to come back into the field. She's still alive. Oh, she's been medically cleared by this point, I would assume. No excuse not to use her. Ada, God knows where the hell she is. She's a big player. Something needs to occur with her. Now, Claire, I believe, and Moira are basically being parents to the new young Alex Wesker. Something's happened there. I'm assuming that Moira will be trained by Claire, if not possibly by, because I'm sure Claire can go to Jill and Leon and Chris and just say, hey, I need help me train Moira. She's got potential. She needs some skill. Help me out. No issues. Trust me, they'll be happy to help her. I mean, they've got they're basically all in this. They're all basically a foundation group in their own right. You know, together as a whole group together. I mean, all the members, even though they're not all technically part of the BSA, but you get my point. So they all know each other that well. But there's a whole bunch of different, and there's Maria Gomez, relation to Glen Aries. Now, she's gone for revenge. She is a mutation in her own right. So something's going on there. She's all the wealth that Glenn had, all the research capability. I'm almost certain that they were part of the connections, if not directly linked to them, or directly associated at the very least. So that's a major player we need to find out about. So it just there's so many other I mean, Shiva may or may not be, but we need to have Leon. I believe there was a show from Netflix for Leon and Claire. That's not good enough. You've got too many other things going on in this game, which, for lore purposes, you need to start explaining. Like, Rebecca needs to, the bioterrorism thing for BSA Europe. What the hell's going on? Is Bailey involved? Bailey, another thing going on we don't know everything about. I mean, it's one of those things where I I say that Revelations needs to be made before RE9 because there's too many other main characters that need to either be linked together or the stories need to come to a full conclusion. Alex, Ada, Mia, uh, Rebecca, um, Clara, Moira, because they're basically a pair, a crime fighting pair, if you want to call it that way, partners in crime, as it were. Um, there's all these other characters who are still young enough in story perspective to actually hold to make a difference, right? They can still be young enough, or respectively old enough in Alex's case, to still play a big role. Ada, fine, she's probably in the mid 40s. Doesn't mean she can't be still a badass. She's got her own connections in her own right, and she can twist the story however she wants. She can manipulate it to all hell. So there's a lot of other characters. If they're going for Rose, they're probably trying to select like maybe 2 or 3 characters the most to play with. They've got too many other characters, and even if they use, if they use, let's say Wesker is the one that now pulls the weapons for Europe, so that way we'll be pulling Clara Moira straight in for that. Leon's gonna get involved in all that, probably all this sort of with their history. That leaves, but that would kind of perfectly leave it for Revelations 3, which have, Maria Gomez, Jill, Rebecca. There's lots of possibilities, and Ada can swing into whichever way or both. Revelations 3 needs to happen first to link the stories and bring some continuity. Whether the Miranda story is explained in Revelations 3 or RE9, I don't care which one, but it needs to be explained. I understand that she's dead. I don't care. I want to know how she knew all this fantastic medical ability at least a century before it was technically even possible. And where the hell she learned it from? And she's immortal? Oh yeah, let's just throw that out there and sweep it under the rug. Sorry, what? You're just gonna throw a little trait like, oh yeah, she's immortal, nothing to worry. Wait, what? But how is Miranda immortal? Wow, why have we never heard of her? That's massive detail with her ability. We need to explain. I don't care if she's dead. We need to know in hindsight how, where, who. Even if it's in documentation, I don't care. I want to understand that. I really do. I think it's a necessity in that sense. I even reference like people like Carl Heisenberg and Beneviento. Electrified electrical conducting organs. As far as I'm aware, that's not even possible for humans. You put enough electricity through a human organ, you're gonna fry it or badly burn or scar it. Conductible? Bullshit. That's genetic enhancements. Beneviento secreting signal substance? Oh, come on. Like, you talk about experiments. I'm thinking they're experiments on one of the islands that's probably done by the connections. They've used them for experiments to think, is this possible? Can we create this one? We don't need any more. Let's ship them out somewhere else. You know, uh, who might want them? Um, you know, who else? Miranda. And if this, and it's one of those unspoken things where they don't say where they come from, but you can kind of figure out the connection there because they probably met somehow. And if they're meeting in the sense that, oh, we'd like your DNA. Oh, here, we'll give you a couple of experiments with really cool genetic abilities. We don't need them anymore. You can use them however you want. Let's have some talks. Great way to open a discussion, far as I'm concerned. But you know what I mean? It's just like it's the open conversation opener with that sort of thing. Miranda's skill, ability, she's taught all this is she's taught Oswald, and the fact is that Bailey may actually probably knows about Miranda from Spencer anyway, so he's probably so it would kind of make sense that Heisenberg, probably Dimitrescu, even Moreau, potentially. They're probably experiments from the connections on some island, which is probably going to be revealed in Revelations 3. Like, there's a lot of other underlying connections which have to be found out. Yeah, it's just... I'm, I'm saying it's a necessity that Revelations 3 come before RE9. Otherwise it's just you can't just jump the gap. Even if they made a movie, there's too many separate storylines that have to occur, and even in even in Vendetta, even in some of the other ones, Retribution or whatever, I can't remember half the movies now, but they never focus on more than 3 characters. I think at most at any one time there was a connection through Tricell, there was Claire, and there was Leon. Right? Now, that's 3 players. Tricell for the company, I mean, which is the very end. I think it was Resident Evil Retribution, if I recall. Or, I can't remember if it was Retribution or something like that. But anyway, I mean, they don't use too many characters because otherwise there's too much story to explain. Even in that thing where there was this whole thing with the G virus and all this sort of stuff and everything like that, and that thing with Leon, with Ada, and all this other stuff and their own connections, still didn't use too many characters. There's too much to explain otherwise, and that's why if they're gonna do an anime movie tying up 2 or 3 or 4 characters together, pull Revelations 3 where they can do I set things, let's say, where, with Maria, her link with occasions, if it's true, those characters there, Alex can be with RE9, with Rosemary, that makes perfect sense for a timeline for 16, 18 years, and just put them all there and have the movie to explain some stuff and maybe conclude some stories. You want to conclude Jill, you want to conclude Sheva, even if you want to conclude Leon. For what it's worth, maybe. You're not going to conclude Moira and Claire. They're young enough, they can still do another game. There's no problem with that. They've got connections to Alex Wesker, who's still another player in the game, another component, another element in the lore. Still gonna have a revitalization. It should. If they don't, what the hell's wrong with them? For Capcom, the lore writing, because Alex Wesker is a character now still. They need to do an anime movie to tie up characters or link them up, and Revelations 3 plot documents to explain stuff, even if it's cutscenes that just explain stuff with dialogue. We need explanations. I'd love to find out from Miranda also connections there. Like, that would be fantastic. Kind of a necessity. I'm glad we found. I mean, and it like this. It turns out that Chris knows something about a cover up within the BSA itself, which is I think it's FBC. I think it might be FSB or whatever. I think it's FBC or maybe. Um, but there was that internal cover up. There's internal corruption going on there. I think Chris knows about some sort of something going on again within BSAA again, and that's probably why he's gone completely rogue. And if that were the case, maybe he's going to drag Leon, Rebecca, potentially Leon. Leon's going to completely understand this from Chris's perspective, and he will side with him in a second. And so would Jill with Chris and Jill's history. So there's a lot. There is some potential, and I can understand now. And first, he is angry at the BSA, but now there's sort of a hint to something going on within the hierarchy that even Chris can't get access to. There's there's the there's a rat in the BSA, you know, and he's figured that out, and he's not telling anyone because he doesn't want the whole thing to explode everywhere. Fair enough. Probably a link with the connections. Connections have infiltrated BSA. I understand that. That makes sense in its own way. And unless you read the report, you wouldn't know it because he's saying, "Oh, look, I don't trust the BSA anymore. I'm going on my own. I've an Owl Squad who trust me completely, beyond plenty of operations. I authorize you to after the BSA." I think in that hindsight, Chris knew that neither Jill nor Claire, if she's brought back in, Leon, if they ask, that none of them are in that task force. Which means they're probably from Europe. And he's probably thinking, okay, they're nowhere near there, I don't need to ask. But they could have done, Chris could have said, all Chris needed to say in that game was, you know, it said, you know, even if he mentions it to himself, even if he talks to himself, thinking out loud, you know, he can say content says, look, don't get cocky or whatever it is. He could have seen himself, says, well, says, don't need to worry about Jill. Says, don't need to worry about Jill or Leon. That's all he would need to say. Because that's a subtle thing that if he thinks to himself out loud, we can hear himself think out loud, sir. Don't need to worry about Jill or Leon. Because they're probably the only contractors that would actually go on that sort of mission on there. Because, you know, because TerraSave has currently, unless they've been dismantled by this game's events or from the timeline, Moira and Claire, if they're not with TerraSave already, they've gone back to the BSA for protection, all that sort of stuff, which kind of makes sense. But if they're not, then Leon's an entity. Jill is still with the BSA. Leon can get easily asked back in. He's freelance at this point. Of course he could get contracted in. Rebecca's on research. They wouldn't send her to Silence, had huge protection for her. And I don't see her making that trip. She'd probably be all the clinical studies for archiving and all that, which would make kind of sense. You know, so Jill and Leon are probably the only contractors who could have actually gone through that mission, which is why I'm saying all Chris needed to say is, you know, I don't need to worry about them. And that would have alleviated people saying, I mean, even if you thought that Chris had gone rogue, you still have to think about factors like that. Like, it's almost like you convince the players who know about these people who could actually be on missions, because the BSA would go to a bioterrorism event. That's all reasonable form, for God's sake. For them not to show up is kind of contradictory to the point of them existing. So, for Chris to know something's up, you know, for him to authorize his own team to attack them, means he knows already that none of his friends are going to be there. If he had mentioned that, I would not have had a problem. In fact, for me, I would have been thinking, oh, so what does he know about the BSA that we don't? That's what I would have said. Or something along the lines. I wouldn't have gone outright hating Chris for, oh, you're betraying people. Because that's how he made me feel. If he said the simple little things, I don't have to worry about Jill or Leon. That's all. You just don't have to worry about Leon or Jill. That's all you have to say. Which would make perfect sense for the story. It would tell me, tell character, oh, people play, oh, He doesn't need to worry about the BSA. He knows something we know about the BSA. He's suspicious of them for some reason. None of his friends are there. My team can attack them. It then makes the player think, "Oh, what does he know that we don't?" And it makes you really curious into what Chris does next. And to be fair, it would also help blink a suspicion where, you know, even more suspicious when you see that this bioweapon was used in the attack by the BSA in Europe, right? From the Europe HQ. Right, that's the assumption. So it would also lead to the fact that if Chris had said that, done the worry about his teammates from the original founding 11, then it would lead to the fact that, oh, he knows some sort of cover-ups going on, or some sort of corruption or infiltration zone we don't know anything about. Oh, here's a big link to a bar. Oh, the BSA have gone rogue, or someone's controlling the BSA, or someone's taken over the Europe HQ that we don't know anything about. You know, it pieces segments together instead of just leaving this blank old thing of, I mean, unless you read the Baker's report before you play, which I don't think everyone is going to, they're going to have some serious questions. And I think something little subtle things could have really helped. The game itself, I honestly was expecting more of a horror aspect, more of a RE7 horror aspect. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed RE7. I was expecting a fair amount of that from RE8, but they went more. It was more facing off against bioweapons. It was more of a. It's like they had, you know, with the whole mazes and doors and collectibles. Like it was like they combined RE7 style of puzzles and, you know, just maybe collectibles or figuring stuff out. Combine that with RE4's collectibles. Uh, I believe there's the ingredient style things with the merchant. And it's almost like they also dished in a little bit of the RE5 sort of thing where it's like multiple characters, multiple boss fights, multiple areas. Okay, not with the so many people, but it's centralized on one or two people, and there's a lot of places you can go. It's like to combine elements from all sorts of different things, you know, which I can see in those elements. And I mean, considering they didn't go with an all-out stealth horror aspect like they did with RE7, I did actually enjoy this game a lot. You know, it was one of those things where, like with the Duke and everything, I liked the throwback with that with him when he said, "I like the shop, I like the upgrades." You know, it's one of the things where it encourages true exploration. Most people probably wouldn't bother. Those like care about, it's like, we'll go and find everything we can, see all the sea of blue as it is. You know, we want to find everything, whether it's herbs or chem fluid or scrap, whatever, or ammo, or, you know, quartz, crystal fragments, you know, or puzzles you have to do, or just lockpicks and excuse me, and finding enemies, documents. I mean, there was a lot in this game, you know, and you know, a lot of some things more subtle, a lot of bit of story. I think there could be a bit more story, to be perfectly honest, but I'm happy with what they had. I mean, some stuff they've left for other games to understand, but I think more explanation about maybe the previous lords would have been really helpful. I think that's a bit of a missed opportunity there. Um, you know, the boss fights themselves. You know, I think those daughters, the three daughters there. I think it's one of those things they could have. Maybe they could have dragged them out more, in the sense of have like a cutscene where, I don't know, they swarm like a group of bugs on you or something. You have to sort of fight them off or shoot them away from you. It's like segmented, and then that big boss fight with Dimitrescu, like, makes sense. Probably could have dragged that out a bit more, if I'm honest. I mean, you know, you release the demon inside of her, and you just fire shots off until you weaken her to the point where she shoves you in the building. They could have dragged out a little bit more, I think, honestly. I mean, for the boss fight that it was so imposing, I think there was more substance that could have pulled to that. Another missed opportunity. I mean, I still enjoyed it. It was just I think they could have done a bit more with it. The Moreau fight, I liked how that was in sections. I did. That was good. How I think that I mean, if you're paying attention, you knew it would be easy to figure out that it was Moreau. The whole fish thing, but I like how they teased you a little bit there and all that, which is actually pretty cool. So, Donna Benvenuto, that bay was bloody creepy as hell. The dolls just didn't help at all. So, that was proper RE7 stealth, creepy style puzzles. As creepy as it was pretty cool. It was nice to have that segment there. Um, a quick boss fight, if you like, but I think it was more the creepiness and atmosphere which they pretty much got there, which is quite cool. Heisenberg, there's a lot of suspicion around who's connected with, but I think that's not the worst thing in the world. But how you had to go through his whole factory, a few boss fights, and then you have that overall boss fight against him, which depending on how accurate you are and how much and how many bullets you lay off into him, I think it could go, it could take quite a while, could take quite short, depending how much upgrade your weapons. And as much as I appreciate the way that they're saying, excuse me, they designed the game where you don't have enough resources to upgrade everything unless you do multiple playthroughs in that style, which I understand. But at the same time, it would be kind of nice to have it where you could upgrade everything if you really wanted to. There was a way you could, but I understand how they force you to pick and choose what you upgraded, power, reload, whatever it might be. I did like how they forced you into choosing. I think it was more like that. It gives you replayability, which is pretty cool. So Mother Miranda was that very interesting character. I really think they should have gone a lot more into her, delved a lot more into her past, about her and all that. But you know what? For what it's worth, we found out a fair amount about her, and she was quite secretive. Um, how we face all those other bosses, the types of creatures. There's some nice crits in there. The weapons are actually pretty cool. I love that. I said before, the way they had all the attachments, it didn't expand it in the inventory. It was just in little blips, dots which lit up saying that was good. You had to buy extra inventory, but it didn't increase the inventory slots for all the expanded weaponry. That was good. It just kept it to the weapon expansion slots. Perfect. I love that. You had to be careful what you crafted. If you really searched everywhere, collected all the ammo, probably wasn't the big issue. But if you're just rushing through the game, you probably have to do a lot more inventory management. You have to be really critical of what you craft. I appreciate that quite a lot, actually. There was some areas where it pissed me off quite a bit, where how much you had to really search for things. If you want to be really methodical, fine. But if you're not so caring, maybe a bit of a downside. But I get what they're trying to go for, but maybe a little too. They're making it probably a little bit too. Maybe just a tad too far. How they're trying to go a little, maybe too much intricacy in how methodical you have to be. I think there could have been a little less, a little more blunt at times. Just like, here's the stuff, it's there, shoot it. If you don't care, you don't have to worry about it. It's up to you. And I think if they'd be a little bit more, just put a little bit more obvious, it's up to you. When you collect and waste your bullets, up to you, but if not, make it more obvious. Because I don't think everyone's going to have got everything. So, I mean, the treasures were pretty cool. I wish we found out about the founders. I really, really wish we'd learned about them. The treasures, they tell you only a certain amount. I really wish there'd been some background. That'd been really cool. Um, you know, how it starts with Ethan being as dumb as he always is. Like, oh, but I know this. I don't get this. I don't get that. It's cool cameos to see Evelyn. It was really cool to find out that Ethan was dead the whole time through that game. It was kind of obvious in hindsight, but it's really cool to learn about that way in the way we did. I thought that was actually really awesome. So it was a really good way they open up. The Duke is another character I would love to find out more about him. I don't think we're going to. It's gonna be one of those characters like we'll figure out a way to tell you at some point. We don't really care. I mean, I get it, but still, I'd love to know. I mean, the areas you could go to, it's one of those things where you had to find stuff. It was you could search places. There was sometimes enemies if you went back and forth. There were there were enemies respawned or stronger enemies or hidden boss fights, as it were. All sorts of areas you could explore. You could choose whether or not you explored everywhere as well, depending on where you'd access certain areas at certain points, collect everything. Very, very good. It was, you know, I think it's one of the things I can appreciate what they're trying to do. It's like they're trying to take those core elements of the very fighting style that is very much a lot of enemies like there is in RE5. A lot of story they're feeding to you gradually. They're going with the collection, the exploration of RE4, with the at times subtle stealth and puzzle inventory management that is RE7. They're trying to combine them all into it, more RE4 and RE7. But look, I can see little bits and pieces of RE5 in terms of the ammo, just the story aspects, all this sort of stuff. There's documents listed around, all that sort of thing. I understand. I think that's really cool. I can see those aspects being drawn in, and I think they did quite a good job. I was expecting a bit more of a truly horror scare tactic type, like the bit more was in RE7, but for what they did, and considering that they actually didn't begin this game the way they did, they began with Revelations 3 and they changed it over, I think they did a pretty damn good job. And I really enjoy. I'll tell you one thing also, I'm really pleased. I've had ray tracing on the whole game. I don't see it making a huge difference, but it was nice that it held up regardless. Because sometimes ray tracing just craps the game out and it bugs out. It didn't. I'm really pleased it didn't crap the game out. I must admit though, I think I would have preferred. I'm assuming this game was set, especially in the on the PS5 version, it was set automatically to 60 FPS, and on the or maybe it was 30 FPS the whole way. I would have liked, because I know this game was available on PS4 as well. I would have liked it where there was a setting where it's performance for quality. A lot of there are games that do this now. I know Ubisoft is famous for doing it now, which is kind of cool. Other games that do similar things where it there's where it has ray tracing with performance prioritized 60 FPS 1080, figure out the lighting. You've got ray tracing there, looks fantastic, runs super smooth. Or you could go with the old style 30 FPS, enable 4K, probably HDR with ray tracing for those who want to bump it up in their own editing settings to 60, how they want to record with the Elgato or whatever. I think that's something which for the console generational targeting for PC, if they did, I'm pretty sure did for PS5 and X you know if it Xbox and all this sort of stuff. I mean, I think it's one of those where that isn't a missed opportunity for Capcom to have really let players play how if they just want graphic fidelity and just do it for the whole 4K experience, or whether they want the really crisp experience with ray tracing. Give players the choice. I mean, we're on next gen consoles. You know, I mean, if it's only for the next gen, like if it's only for people on Xbox to have the choice, to have the option for performance and quality, if they play on the Xbox Series X, for PS5, people with the PS5 copy, the PS5 version, to have the option for performance of quality for people playing the Xbox One or PS4 Pro, to not have that option, but still have maybe ray tracing if they wanted. Give the players that option. I think would be pretty good. I think that's something that I would have liked to see. Don't get me wrong, the RE engines held up fantastically well, but I think it would have just added just that little extra, which you you're kind of expecting now on the next gen consoles. Let's be honest, but you know, Chris was his mysterious self. It was good to see him very much hiding a lot, but I think because of what we've learnt about him, this whole possible cover up, this inside job in the BSA, all this sort of stuff, it's understandable, but I wish it would have told us a lot more in that regard. I'm glad Ethan's story's finished. Actually, I think it's good. He's lasted 2 games. He came in as some unknown character. His story's ended. Have Revelations 3, have an anime movie that helps explain stuff, then have Rosemary's story. Have those all other characters. I get that. I think that I just hope they don't do it the other way around. For God's sake, don't do it. Don't confuse everyone with the law. It's gonna be a mess otherwise. I know, and bear in mind, this is just my opinion. What I'm saying about this, I mean, it's my opinion for what facts I understand, what I know about RE law, the characters, how they all fit together. This is my opinion, and my take, my impression, my perspective. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I just want to make that clear. Um, I may not be correct on everything, but I'm drawing from sources, so I'm doing the best I can. I should bear in mind. Like I'm saying, I'm not an expert on RE law, but I do love RE law. So yeah. Look, all in all, I did really enjoy this game. Wasn't quite what I was expecting, but considering what I got, and I never actually ever finished RE4, so for that sort of throwback, but a lot better game, a lot better looking, obviously, runs fantastic well. The aiming system was really cool. Some of the weapons were pretty cool as well. You know, it was nice. I really enjoyed. I had that RE7 feel with that shooter game feel, which is really cool as well. I did enjoy that. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. I've been waiting to play this game since it came out, but I've been playing stuff with Valhalla and Immortals when I get all that stuff done. Still got more to do with some other games. But I've sort of wasted. I'm like, the whole internet were completely crazy over this game, and I can understand why. I just think they've been too too selective on what they've exploded. But the internet has not exploded with about the information I thought it would. It's exploded on uh, Lady Dimitrescu. It's exploded on possible things about Miranda for Chris. Like for Ethan, the last cutscene of Rosemary, it's like there's some stuff which the internet has not actually looked into or not been obvious about it. Look, or hasn't been obvious in its internal where you know how the internet, like these people also conspiracy theorists who theorize things, they haven't theorized on things I thought they would have, and it kind of throws those theories out there. It's like, okay, you're really thinking on that, but hey, that's each their own, as they say. But yeah, ended here. I'm glad I played it. I did enjoy it. I'm glad I read through the whole report. It certainly shed a light on quite a few things. A lot of questions, a lot of expectation, but that's Capcom for you. I'm sure they've got a lot to deliver. A lot of, I suppose, promises to keep in a sense, but that's a mystery. That's the mystery that Capcom is at times. But that's kind of why we love them at the same time. But also cautious about how they go about things. So hope you all enjoyed this as much as I did. Hope you enjoyed watching. Yeah, I know I've gone through a lot, waffled on a lot, but this is a series like RE, like AC, like COD series I really care about. I really enjoy the lore, so I tend to really think out loud, really be methodical if I can, and this game is no different. It's really gone through that lore and really opened my mind and maybe research stuff, and sometimes what I love doing. And sometimes I make the effort to go and do that because I care. Not everyone does. Some people just try and rush through the game. I care because I love the lore. Have ever since I started playing these games. I haven't played them all, but the games I've played about half the games in the series, but I love the lore regardless. So that should count for something if nothing else. But anyway, and here, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoy as much as I have. and I'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.